All right, NBA Nation. This is going to be your NBA Round 1 predictions review and NBA Round 2 Eastern and Western Conference semifinals predictions. I start in the East because I'm a Lakers fan. They're in the West. And as always, I do two different sets of predictions. I do one set of predictions for how many games I think each series will go, and a prediction for who I think will win the series. So let's just start it off in the East for my series predictions as far as how I did, the series prediction for how many games each series will go. I went 0-4 in the East and 2-2 in the West for my series predictions. The only two I got right in the West were the Thunder and the Spurs. As far as my winning game predictions, I went 3-1 in the East and 3-1 in the West. The only game I got wrong in the East was the Celtics and the Sixers. The only game I got wrong in the West. So the only game I got wrong in the East was the Celtics and the Sixers. The only game I got wrong in the West was the Nuggets and the T-Wolves. So to recap for my totals, obviously 2-0. Obviously for my series predictions, 0-4 in the East, 2-2 in the West. So that'll through 8 games, that'll put me up to 2-6. That'll put me up to 2-6 between the East and West for my series predictions. And for my game-winning predictions between the East and West, for my game-winning predictions overall between the East and West for the NBA playoffs, I will have an overall record of 6-2. And if you include the play-in tournament, which I went 2-4 in this year, I am now sitting at 8-6 overall, including the play-in tournament. So yeah, doing better than I was last year as far as picking the game winners right, but not as far as picking the series predictions, because last year I only got 5 right there, and I'm sitting at 4. I'm sitting at what? 2-6. Horrible. But let's get into that second round. So to recap, for my series predictions in the East, 0-4. In the West, 2-2. Bringing my total between the East and West for my series predictions to 2-6 overall. And as far as my game-winning predictions in the East, I went 3-1. In the East, for my predictions for the game winners, I went 3-1 in the East, 3-1 in the West, bringing my total between the East and West overall for the NBA playoffs to 6-2 through 8 games overall between the East and West for the NBA playoffs, and including the play-in tournament, I am 8-6 overall for picking the winners right, including the play-in tournament. So now let's get in to this second round for the East and West. Obviously starting in the East because starting in the East, I'm a Lakers fan. So I will always go to the West second. So in one matchup in your Eastern Conference semifinals, we got the number 1 seeded Detroit Pistons taking on the number 4 seeded Cleveland Cavaliers. I am going to go with the Detroit Pistons in this series. I am going to go with the Pistons. Oh, I am going to go with the Pistons over the Cavs in 6 games. And the other series in the East, we got the Knicks and the Sixers. I'm going to go with the Knicks in 6 games. I am going to go with the Knicks in 6 games over the Sixers. Now let's move on to the West. And one matchup in the West, we got your number 2 seeded San Antonio Spurs taking on the number 6 seeded Minnesota Timberwolves. And the other matchup, we got the number 1 seeded and defending NBA champions Oklahoma City Thunder taking on my number 4 seeded LA Lakers. So, in one matchup in the West, I am going to go with your number 2 seeded Spurs. In the first matchup in the West, in the first matchup in the West, I am going to go with the Spurs over the T-Wolves in 6 games. In the other matchup, I am going to go with the Thunder over the Lakers in 5. I am going to do an alternate pick for this prediction because I believe without Luka, the Lakers will only get 1 game in this series. I believe if we get Luka back and healthy by like game 2, I believe the Lakers can win this series. So, alternate prediction, if Luka comes back, I believe the Lakers win this series in 7 games. But I'm going to go with my first prediction for the video, obviously. I'm going with the Thunder in 5. There you have it to recap. In the East, going with the Pistons in 6. Going with the Knicks. So in the East, to recap in the East, going with the, to recap, we are going with the Pistons in 6. Sorry, guys, I'm just trying to get through this. I get a little frustrated. I got some OCD issues and stuff. So, to recap, in the East, we are going with the Pistons in 6, the Knicks in 6, and in the West, we're going with the Spurs in 6 and the Thunder in 5. Y'all enjoy the second round.